home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They got him again!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hinnick.
It's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hinnick.
Josh Hinnick here live on 97.3 ESPN. Back from a busy sports weekend. Phillies win 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks. We'll get into that this hour. Plus, we'll do a little recap of the sports weekend. I know a lot of people were tuned in very closely to the Kentucky Derby. You had Game 7s in both the NHL and the NBA playoffs. So with all that and more, this hour, you and me, 609-403-0973. That is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And as always, we are live on my YouTube channel where you can see the Ocean Casino Resort Studios right behind me here on 97.3 ESPN. Let's get to the Phillies first, and then we'll get to the other sports, because I think there's a couple of big picture takeaways, right? There's a couple of big picture takeaways from the Phillies weekend. And I think the biggest takeaway of all is, if we haven't learned anything about this team, it's that this team does not have the depth necessary to sweep a series. It doesn't matter if it's the Diamondbacks. It doesn't matter if it's the Washington Nationals. You know, a few weeks ago, they couldn't do it against the Dodgers. They just don't have the horses to take 3 straight against the team. And it's not because they're a bad baseball team. It's because of the reality that I have been saying for weeks here on 97.3 ESPN. The roster was not built to maximize winning right now. Now, that's a good and bad thing. It's a good thing in the reality that this team as currently constructed is going to force the president of baseball operations to make some difficult decisions at the deadline. Or even before the deadline, whenever he does it, at some point between probably June 1st and July 31st, the president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski, will have to make some difficult decisions. So that's the good news of all this. The bad news is that in the meantime, for people out there who they care about the standings, right? If you're the person who grew up in an era where you got the newspaper and you look at the standings and you look at the transaction page and you look at the league leading stats, if you're from that generation, you're looking at that 2.5 game lead the Mets have. You're looking at the reality that the Mets have one of the best records in all of baseball since they beat the Phillies in London last year. You remember that game on a Sunday. Since then, the Mets have one of the best records in all of baseball. But if you're someone like me who doesn't sweat the standings because I know the Phillies can make a run if they are the wild card team, and right now, if the season ended, the Phillies would be the 3rd wild card team. So, if you're someone like me who says I'm less concerned about the standings on May 5th, and I'm more concerned about the fact that we have a president of baseball operations who has been operating like a sanctimonious know-it-all for a very long time now. And it's funny how people are slowly coming to my side of this argument. I see people very slowly matriculating into my field when it comes to what I've been preaching on my bully pulpit here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. I have been saying for a long time now, the problem is Dave Dombrowski. And the good news is when you have a baseball team that basically can't sweep a series if their life depended on it, it's always going to put them one game back. 2 up, 1 back. 2 up, 1 back. Now, yes, if you win every series from now until September, you are a playoff team. And you have a better shot than not at having a chance to win the division. A team that wins 100 games still loses 62. But I'm a big believer in today's age of baseball. And when I mean today's age of baseball, I'm referring to the 21st century, okay? Being a flawed team in April and May is actually a good omen, because that means that you have to go into the deadline that, and I call it a window, June 1st to July 31st. That window is an opportunity for you to now make your team better, because you don't have the plethora of excuses, right? You're not one of the best teams in baseball, okay? You go through all the teams in the National League alone. There are 5 teams with more wins than the Phillies. You go through the National League alone. I'm not talking about all of baseball, just the National League. There are 6 teams whose pitching staffs have allowed fewer runs than the Philadelphia Phillies. Statistically, you are not one of the 1 or 2 best teams in baseball. You may have a roster with the construction and the potential of being one of the best, but there are still flaws on your team. Bullpen depth, lacking a right-handed bat that is reliable in the middle of the lineup. You basically are hoping and praying that when hitting season happens, the bats are going to be more consistent and wake up. But as I said to Nick Earnshaw when I was filling in for Billy Schweim in the locker room on Saturday morning here on 97.3 ESPN, hitting season's great, but what happens when you get to October when it's no longer warm outside anymore? Do the Phillies just stop hitting all of a sudden? Now, I know it's silly to say, but I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, okay? It's the idea that the Phillies, they have flaws, and they got to pick it up. They got to get themselves together. Now, what's interesting about this team is that with the rotation as currently constructed, Rob Thompson made a very interesting statement over the weekend, and it may have gone under the radar for some people. But we played this audio earlier today on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN. Rob Thompson, as he has now been making a habit of, was asked about one thing and revealed information about something else. So, for example, when our own Nick Earnshaw asked Rob Thompson last week about not giving stock opportunities against left-handed pitching, he, in the course of his answer, revealed that what he's really trying to do is get more opportunities for guys like Edmundo Sosa and Weston Wilson. And he even threw in there, and I want to get Cal Stevenson some action. And what did you see? Cal Stevenson on Friday fail at being a big league ball player and immediately sent down when Brandon Marsh came up. So then this weekend, Rob Thompson again is asked about Taijuan Walker and gave us a little bit of information about another topic, another issue with his ball club.
We got to sort of move on. That doesn't mean we're not going to go to a 6-man at some point. But I think we'll do a 5-man at least till the next off day, meaning not Monday, but the off day after that. And then we'll see where we're at.
So my first question when I heard this audio over the weekend was, well, when is their next off day? I did a little research. The Phillies' next off day is Thursday, May 15th. So that means They are playing a stretch of consecutive games from tomorrow, May 6th, to Wednesday, May 14th. They have their 3 games set in Tampa, followed by 3 games against the Cleveland Guardians. Then they come back home and play the St. Louis Cardinals, and then they have a day off. So at least for the current stretch of games, Rob Thompson confirms they are going with the 5-man rotation of Wheeler, Luzardo, Nola, Sanchez, Suarez. Now, I don't think anything is going to take any of those guys out of the rotation. I think that is more what Thompson was trying to say there. Not trying to put words in the man's mouth. But I did find it interesting, without being asked, without being provoked, without being anyone saying to him, he volunteered the information about a 6-man rotation. Now, why would Rob Thompson do something like that? Well, it's very possible that the Phillies are thinking one of 2 ways. Number one, that Andrew Painter is maybe progressing faster than the original expectation for him to come up. Remember, the original prediction was July-ish, is what Dave Dombrowski originally said, and what John Middleton jokingly referred to recently. So the Phillies were originally looking to around July. Well, if Painter is going to be ready sooner, do you call him up and try to makeshift a 6-man rotation? Now, I would not do that. But I am not paid millions of dollars to run a baseball organization like Dave Dombrowski is. The theory may be, again, not speaking for anyone myself, but I've been listening throughout the day to different guests that Mike Gillis had on the Sports Bash, on 97.3, to Mike McGarry on the Press of Atlantic City, Bob Wenkel from Crossing Broad, Gil's conversation with Nick Earnshaw during Nick's Nuggets, right? And I've been trying to do a little upreading on different people who cover the team, and it appears that the Phillies are basically not going to make any major roster moves anytime soon, barring something wild and unforeseen happening. We cannot expect them to go out there and make some big trade coming up here, right? So one way to offset an overworked bullpen is to go to a 6-man rotation. One way to offset a rotation that, instead of asking Nola, Wheeler, Luzardo, and Sanchez and Suarez to just pitch more innings to make up for the bullpen, maybe you can say to them, pitch less innings, pitch more often, or let them go that extra inning or 2 and give them less games by the end of the year. Now, again, I am not suggesting that any of these scenarios are what anyone wants. That is not my inference. That is not my suggestion. But what I am putting out into the universe is this. The Phillies have a group of pitchers who, frankly, have had to pitch a lot more than they would have liked to. The hope was that Jordan Romano was going to be a part of this team as a guy who was going to help them re-solidify a bullpen for a team that let Carlos Estevez and Jeff Hoffman leave. And while Estevez and Hoffman are having borderline all-star seasons for their ball clubs, Estevez with the Royals, Hoffman with the Blue Jays, the Phillies have been asking Jose Alvarado to throw a lot of innings and pitch a lot of games probably more than they would have liked to originally. And they're having to ask more of guys like Matt Strom. And they're having to demand more of guys who, frankly, it shouldn't be some of their responsibilities, okay? Joe Ross is a solid pitcher. Carlos Hernandez is a nice arm to have on your team. But none of these guys are necessarily going to give you a bridge to Lidge like you had in 2008. In today's baseball, you either have or you don't have a good bullpen. And for the Phillies, they may think, whether we agree with it or not, that's a different conversation, but they may think that a temporary six-man rotation might offset some of those bullpen concerns. But the state of the Phillies right now moving forward is they're going on this road trip. They tried to not overwork anyone in recent days, but that blew up in their face when the game went to overtime yesterday. So now that Suarez couldn't go deep in his game, they had to run through the bullpen basically yesterday. They're using a day off today to hit the reset button and to potentially hit the road in a scenario where they are hoping to win 4 out of 6. Now, Tampa, not a great team this year. Whether you want to blame that on them not being in their home stadium or on the injuries that they have sustained this year, either way, they're just not as good of a team as they've been in years past. And this week, when you go down there, you are only going to see their one great pitcher. Shane Baz has been their best pitcher the entire year. Overall, not a great baseball team, not a great pitching staff. They can be had. Okay? And what you're hoping is that because they are a team that actually lacks more depth than you do, which is wild to even say out loud. They are a team that is lacking more depth than you are. And now you're hoping that you can kind of take advantage of them a little bit. You know, maybe get into their bullpen, make them work a little bit, make them burn through some pitchers in the coming days. And then you have Cleveland. Cleveland is where it's going to be very interesting. Because the scheduled starters for Cleveland right now is one of their worst pitchers, Gavin Williams on Friday, followed by on Saturday, one of their best pitchers, Tanner Bybee, who, yes, he's having a down year so far, but he is still a very good pitcher, very dangerous, especially for a team like the Phillies that are an inconsistent offense. And then another not good pitcher for Cleveland in Luis Ortiz. Cleveland is a team that's more offense than pitching. Can you take advantage of those two matchups before you come home for that 3-game set against St. Louis? Very interesting road trip for the Phils coming up. Check on the text board on the other side. 609-403-0973. How are you guys feeling with the Phillies after taking the homestand? Look, overall, they won the homestand. 4 out of 6. But is that enough? Has your confidence been reinforced in this team? Are you still looking at them and saying, like I am, I'm glad they're winning in some games, but they still have flaws? Let me know how you guys feel out there. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And we are live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Phillies Talk weekend recap. And also, if you didn't see my article at 973ESPN.com, big turnout for AEW Collision at the Adrian Phillips Theater in Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, along with a very unique announcement that came at the end of the live television broadcast. All that and more we will touch on this hour here on 97.3 ESPN.
For over
For 135 years, First Bank of Sea Isle City has proudly served Cape May County with a commitment to maintaining a hometown feel. We provide secure, convenient deposit and loan products every day. We're more than just a bank. We're a trusted community partner, offering personalized banking solutions that make life easier for local families of all ages. First Bank of Sea Isle City. Look for our lighthouse in your neighborhood and discover what makes us different.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Right now, the Home Depot has spring deals under $20. So no matter what you're working on, the deals are blooming at the Home Depot with savings on plants, flowers, soil, and more. Then light up your outdoor space with Hampton Bay string lights. Was $34.97, now only $19.99. And get the grill going with two 16-pound bags of Kingsford charcoal. Was $19.98, now only $17.88. Don't miss spring deals under $20 now through May 7th at the Home Depot. Subject to availability, valid on select items only.
What's your name? Leonard Skinner. Live in concert. Sweet home. Friday, May 30th, 9 p.m. Ovation Hall and Ocean Casino Resort. Celebrating 50 years of Leonard Skinner. Tickets on sale now at theoceanac.com. Leonard Skinner.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. The NHL Draft Lottery taking place tonight. The Philadelphia Flyers with the fourth best chance of landing the number one overall pick at 8.5%. The San Jose Sharks have the best chance at 25.5%. They're followed by the Chicago Blackhawks and the Nashville Predators. The Phillies with the day off today. They'll begin a 3-game set at Steinbrenner Field in Florida against Tampa Bay. Zach Wheeler will start Tuesday's opener. He's 2-1 with an ERA of 3.48. Drew Rasmussen countering for the Rays at 1-2. The Phillies have won 6 of 7. They took 2 of 3 from Arizona over the weekend. The NBA playoffs continuing tonight. 2 games on the schedule, both in round number 2. The Boston Celtics at home face the New York Knicks. The Oklahoma City Thunder, who had the best record in the Western Conference, they are home to face the Denver Nuggets. Progressive Insurance, bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
It happens more than you think. A customer wants, needs the goods and services your business offers. No matter how hard they try, they can't find you, but they find your competitor right there at the top of the results page.
And even if they do find your website, when they click, it's like a ghost town.
Hello?
Outdated, not compelling, and perhaps worse, it has information that's not accurate.
Y2K? But how do you fix that? At Town Square Interactive, we have the tools to help you maximize your online presence. Just go to mylocalcustomers.com and start by getting a free local customer analysis.
This online tool will show you just how many customers in your area you could be reaching. To get in front of those customers, we will build a premium website for your business.
One that shows up well in web searches and converts website clicks into phone calls, appointments, and foot traffic.
It's simple, it's fast, and it's affordable. Go to mylocalcustomers.com and get started by getting your free local customer analysis today.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. We will get a break of dry, warmer, sunnier weather Wednesday into Thursday, but there is another potential super soaker storm system looming at the end of the week, so still an unsettled week of weather overall. Showers are possible tonight. Fog is likely. Low temperature dips to 61. Tomorrow, a couple bands of showers and thunderstorms roll through with peaks of sun, high 69. Showers wrap up Wednesday morning, high 72. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Every choice you make matters. Whether you're dining out, grabbing takeout from your favorite local spot, or shopping for that perfect outfit at a neighborhood boutique, you're giving back to your community. It's not just about supporting businesses, it's about strengthening connections and keeping your community vibrant. Town Square Media South Jersey is proud to shine a spotlight on local businesses that make our area special.
Jenkins Plumbing and Heating. Call Jenkins for heating and air conditioning installation, service and maintenance, plumbing or drain cleaning service. Visit JenkinsPlumbingandHeating.com. Apex East Roofing. Get a price on your roof in 30 seconds at ApexEastRoofing.com. First Bank of Sea Isle. Cape May County's community bank. Philly Marble and Tile Outlet. Philadelphia Avenue and Route 30 at Egg Harbor Township. Visit PhillyMarble.com. Hot Bagels, your local bagel store. Always fresh, always delicious.
Thank you for supporting your local businesses from Town Square Media, South Jersey.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We'll get to Shaner in EHT. He makes a very interesting point at 609-403-0973 in just a moment. Also, we're taking your DMs into 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And we are live, as always, on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig, live in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios of Atlantic City. Speaking of Atlantic City, I want to hit on really quick. So, I don't know about you guys. I hope some of you listening were there on Saturday night because I was thoroughly entertained. The AEW show was frankly much more than I expected. For those who didn't go, let me just give you a very short recap here. Basically, when I got to Boardwalk Hall around 6:30, there was a line running a half a mile or more down the boardwalk, probably a little more than half a mile, but it took a while for me to actually get in the building. And then once I got in the building, you could tell that they purposely delayed the start of the night because they were trying to make sure everyone got into the building who already had tickets. They started the night with announcing this is actually going to be a Ring of Honor collab with AEW, where they had AEW stars competing against some Ring of Honor folks. And there were some nice surprises throughout the night. New Jersey's own Jay Lethal, famous wrestler who was famous for impersonating people over the years like Ric Flair and Macho Man Randy Savage. He was there. Then the AEW show was a lot of action-packed entertainment. The live show from 8 to 10 on TBS. New Jersey's own Deanna Purrazzo, she was the match right after the live telecast had ended. She actually was competing for a crossover promotion belt with Ring of Honor, with AEW. So a lot of moving parts Saturday night, a lot of fun. But the big announcement was Tony Khan, the co-founder, president, and CEO of AEW, made an impromptu surprise appearance on Saturday night. I didn't know he was going to be there. And he basically comes out and says, hey, you guys have been so great, we've decided we're coming back soon. Now, he didn't give an exact date, okay? So I'm not trying to play, anything, manipulative anyway out there. But it was a big deal because, in the past when we've had events like this in Atlantic City, there's been a lot of caginess. There's been a lot of misdirection, okay, when it comes to different people, when it comes to their intentions, when it comes to Atlantic City moving forward, right? And I don't want to get into a whole list of people, but, South Jersey has had some amazing sporting events and activities, entertainment, and the people who run those entities have, for a variety of reasons, not come back. And it was good to see that in spite of the history of Atlantic City being a city full of disappointed fans over the years, the fans were not disappointed on Saturday night. They had a pleasant surprise that AEW has already confirmed that they want Atlantic City as part of their circuit. Now, AEW, previous to the action on Saturday, had announced they are coming to the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia for a series of shows. For those who don't know, that is the home of the legendary ECW back in the day during the 1990s, one of the biggest wrestling promotions in the world at one point. That eventually got absorbed by what you know today as WWE. So pro wrestling has a lot of history, not just in Atlantic City, but in the city of Philadelphia. And AEW seems to be very intent on tapping into that history. Like I said, it was great to see them work in some of the local people, have some of the bigger names in the sport. Toni Storm defended her belt on Saturday night, and she cut a great promo afterward where she uses the iconic porch on Boardwalk Hall, right? For those of you who have been to Boardwalk Hall, you know about the porch that is connected to the ballroom, which is now the theater for Adrian Phillips. And she used that with the backdrop of the Atlantic City Boardwalk as part of her promo she cut. If you did not see that promo on television or was not there on Saturday night, you can go to 973ESPN.com. I have the full promo as it was seen on TBS on Saturday up there for everyone to see. All right. I want to get that off my chest. Because like I said, it was, and listen, I'm not here to name names, but I'm just going to say that there has been a lot of disappointment in Atlantic City, and there has been disappointment by fans for events that they have supported that did not come back. There has been disappointment by promoters who have brought events to Atlantic City and then not getting the big support that they maybe wanted, right? So I felt like, for the fans brought the energy. They brought the raucous. I was laughing hysterically when at one point they were chanting at the one wrestler that he's bald, and it almost like threw off the entire match for a moment, because I don't think any of those professional wrestlers have ever heard a crowd chanting, "You are bald," and then later, "You are still bald," too. But it was moments like that that made it a great night of escape for someone like myself who's been just very busy. And again, I know for the cynics out there, pro wrestling is fake. We know it's fake. People like me know it's fake. That's why we like it. Because like any form of escapism, you turn off the part of your brain that worries about certain things in the world, and you just go and be entertained. It's why we love certain television shows and movies. It's because the escapism, May 4th was yesterday. May the 4th be with you, right? Star Wars fans, they binge watch Star Wars movies and shows, and I did it myself. I watched some Andor season 2 yesterday. Watched, what else did I consume? The new Star Wars Tales of the Underground series. And again, we know these things are fake. We just go and we enjoy and we get the escapism. All right, let's get back to the Phillies here on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. Shaner and the HT brought up a very interesting point that I think is very important to touch on, because he brings up a side of this coin that I think is very interesting. He says, Josh, this whole 6-man rotation question, I find to be silly. Right now, we have Christopher Sanchez, who has had forearm soreness. Aaron Nola had a stiff neck over the weekend. We have depth with the starting rotation. The one place we have it, people are trying to fight against it. The truth is, someone will sadly go out at some point with some sort of injury or issue. We have a plan to fill that void. That's a side of the conversation I think that we have not talked about, Shannon and EHT, which is, have the Phillies been allowing information to come out about Nola and Sanchez and others as an opportunity for them to turn around at some point and say, see, we told you this guy, he needs 10 days off. 10-day stint. And now it's suddenly an opportunity for them to plug Walker back in the rotation or call up Andrew Painter, right? Is someone in the bullpen at some point going to have fatigue, dead arm, shoulder tightness, back tightness, neck soreness? And they call up Seth Johnson, who they've been grooming to be a guy. Down the road, who they want to bring up Mick Abel for his start because he's been pitching so well in the minor leagues, right? Mick Abel's having the best year of his minor league career so far. I mean, this is a guy who was a first-round pick in 2020. He had been disappointed up until now. But he's 23 years old. Is he finally starting to come into his own, right? He's among the AAA leaders in strikeouts right now. Is he a guy who you can look at down the schedule and you see that, hey, you heard Rob Thompson make mention of that off day, right? May 15th. It's a Thursday. You have the Pirates coming to town. And then you hit the road against the Rockies and the A's. Or maybe the Pirates at home that weekend. Or maybe down the road when you have another team come to Philadelphia. I don't think they want to throw Abel or Painter on the road unless they absolutely have to. But I think that maybe there are a road series come up where they can say, hey, we're not going against the best team in baseball. Let's bring up one of those guys, put someone on the injured list kind of situation. Listen, they're going to be playing the A's, who are playing in a minor league ballpark. Is there maybe a scenario where you look at a Abel or a Painter and say, let them pitch against the A's in that minor league ballpark? May 23rd, 24th, 25th. I think Shannon EHC brings up a good point. It's the idea that are the Phillies potentially setting us up with, Sanchez and the arm soreness, Nola and the neck, to say, we got to sit one of these guys one of these days coming up. Something to think about. Good point there by Shannon and EHT. I love that way of thinking. It's outside the box. It kind of makes your brain, maybe ponder a little bit. Maybe the reason why Thompson is throwing out the 6-man rotation is because the Phillies are setting us up for something else. Let's go to Paul from Millville at 609-403-0973. Hey, Josh, it's great to hear that AEW was a success in Atlantic City. I was just talking to my family the other day about how it is great and fun activities like the Atlantic City Surf and Boardwalk Bullies have disappeared. It's good to see events coming to South Jersey. Love the WWE live show when I went to Boardwalk Hall a few years ago. Thanks from Paul in Millville. Yeah, Paul, and I think it's one of those deals where it's like, we haven't seen, and you named WWE, so I'll use them as an example. We haven't had the WWE come back down to South Jersey as often as they used to. It seemed like every summer they would come to Wildwood and do a live house show, right? Or they would come to Atlantic City, maybe twice a year and have Raw or SmackDown in town. It felt like there was a point in time where the WWE was an entity we saw in the city much more often, and we have it in recent years. I think another one that comes to mind, because you mentioned, the family aspect. I know a lot of people that loved when the Atlantic City Blackjacks were in Philadelphia. I know a lot of people who were going to those games. They were getting good attendance, and the attendance seemed to be building throughout the year. And if the Arena Football League and the team didn't go under the way it did, I know a lot of people who are ready to buy season tickets for the next year. So you talk about the family aspect to this, right? Professional wrestling, they do try to have a family-esque element, even though it is, a sports entertainment that is built around a level of, and I'm saying this a certain way to kind of make my point here, but stylized violence, right? You don't want to bring your kid to Deadpool versus Wolverine because it's rated R, because of the, the humor and the over-the-top violence. But there is a stylized violence that comes with a superhero movie, or that comes with, one of these type of action movies that, are made so you can bring your kids, right? And it's going to captivate their imagination and garner their attention. And professional wrestling does that to an extent. These larger-than-life characters who do these amazing acrobatic moves. And I think that is, you're right. There is an element of the activities that you can bring your family to that have, to an extent, disappeared from the area. And I'm with you, Paul, in Louisville. It's just you walk out of the building feeling good that somebody brought something to Atlantic City, like AEW, and they say, we're coming back. We're going to do this again. And it's something that other companies, you would like to see them do more often, right? The whole idea of, I know a lot of people who were really excited, about Disney on Ice coming to Atlantic City this past year, right? It's entities like that I think that the people who are in this area, right, would like to come out and support. But the people who run the properties in places like Atlantic City, they sometimes get in their own way when it comes to doing what's best for the local community and what's going to draw the most people from the region to their properties, right? I think that, I'm not just saying it because Ocean Casino Resort is the name of, as the sponsor for our studio, but I think Ocean Casino has done a very good job in recent years at bringing shows and events that people actually have interest in, they actually care about. Whereas some other properties, in the city and some other entities, they don't always do things for what the audience of the area wants to see. And I think that is kind of where the differentiator is, right, Paul and Millville? It's the idea that you just want to go out and have a good time. You don't want the riffraff. You don't want the hassle. You just want to go out there, have fun, do your thing, and then have a good night. You don't want to be enticed or bothered or annoyed or let down by anything. You're spending this money. You're spending your time. You don't want it to be for nothing. So I appreciate the text from Paul in Millville. It's a very good point that, in the past, there have been shows and organizations that have come to the city. People have tried to support it. They didn't come back. Or the organization maybe did an event or a show on a night that is inconvenient for a lot of people, or they claim it's inconvenient for them. Again, I can't speak for every person's life. Okay, there's what? Within the sound of my voice, there's like 100,000 people in the South Jersey region. I feel pretty comfortable saying that if 90,000 people all say that they are busy on said night, it's hard to tell all those people, you're wrong, you're stupid, right? And as we went through, in the aftermath of the COVID lockdowns, with the Phillies home games initially and with other events, people don't have a lot of money right now. There are economic elements and factors that have restricted people's disposable incomes. And so people have to pick and choose. Maybe someone like Paul, and I'm not trying to put words in Paul from Millville's mouth, but maybe someone like Paul from Millville says, hey, AEW sounds cool, but I have other plans that night. Or I'm using my money on something else right now, and that is not something I'm going to invest my money into going out for the night. Okay? It's like how someone like myself goes out of his way and says, I will not spend my money with fill in the blank franchise business restaurant, I mean, I listen, it's anyone who knows me, Josh Hennick here on 97.3 ESPN knows I have gone out of my way over the last decade plus to not go to your chain restaurants, to not go to your mainstream corporately owned entities as much as humanly possible. I try to go out of my way to support the local community. And if that means I have to spend a little more money to go to the local restaurant, the local brewery, the local winery, the local theater, the local whatever, I do it. Because to me, that is where I'm going to put my money at. And everyone has to make their own decisions about how they decide to spend their money. And for me, I feel it's important to spend my money, spend my energy, spend my time with certain people. And even if those businesses and those entities are not aware of my support or my passion for this, it doesn't matter. I'm not doing it for attention. I'm doing it because I have a conscience for how I spend my time and my energy and my money. And I think all of us are having to make those same type of decisions. How are we going to spend our time? How are we going to spend our money? How are we going to spend our energy? And to me, if I can support good businesses and entities and shows, that's what I'm going to do with my time and energy. And that's what I try to do here on 97.3 ESPN. I can't speak for everybody else, but I know that Mike Gill and, I know Mike Gill kind of has the same vibe where he likes to support the locals in this area. And I think that it's one of the things that him and I agree on, that if you don't support the local community, it'll die. It'll go away. And I think it's about time for all of us to try to start doing that much, much more often. All right. Enough about me. Let's get back to the sports on the other side. Game 7s this weekend in the NBA and the NHL. Plus, I gave you guys a trifecta about the Kentucky Derby Saturday morning here on 97.3 ESPN. Got 2 out of 3 right. We'll get into all that and more coming up next on 97.3 ESPN.
Stay comfortable with Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning in every season. From expert repairs to system replacements, Broadlee's has you covered. Join their family comfort plan for priority service, repair savings, and worry-free annual maintenance. Broadlee's offers free quotes, rebates, and 0% financing on system installs. So give Broadlee's, your local factory-authorized Bryant dealer, a call today at 609-390-3907 or visit Broadlees.net.
Individual results may vary. Prescription required. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information.
You've noticed your hair is thinning out. Or maybe you've noticed your game in the bedroom is getting a bit cold. Let's make this real simple. These are normal things that happen to lots of guys at some point. And through Hims, getting help couldn't be more, as we said, simple. The process is 100% online, so you just have to answer a few simple questions, and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. For your hair, that means access to a range of doctor-trusted treatments designed to help you regrow hair in as few as 3 to 6 months. And for your more intimate moments, that means access to treatments made to give you a boost in the bedroom, like Viagra, Cialis, and their generic counterparts, which can cost up to 95% less through Hims. If prescribed, treatment is shipped right to your door. A few clicks, and you're dealing with these things before they become a thing. So simple. Find your hair loss and ED solutions today at Hims.com. That's Hims.com. HIMS.com.
Hey there, I'm Jack.
And I'm Stag.
We're just 2 deer that want to make sure you know it's deer season at your authorized John Deere dealer. The deer season that saves bucks. You know, like us.
Yeah, you can get $3,000 off select John Deere machines. No early wake-up calls or tree stands required.
Just a trip to your authorized dealer before June 2nd.
If you ask us, it's the only deer season worth celebrating.
Visit johndeere.com/deer season to find an authorized dealer and for complete finance details.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling Grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 5/19/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store single line activation on qualifying plan. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
Well, Trina, now you're in charge of ordering food for the office, so meet my mountain of menus.
So, this should be easy.
Easy as pie. You know the mathematical constant for a circle circumference to diameter ratio, pi? It's super complicated.
In that case, I'll be using EasyCater. It's got everything on one simple platform. Tons of restaurants, dietary preferences, even digital receipts.
But my mountain of menus.
How about I order us some pie?
EasyCater, the easy way to get food for work.
Want to stay out of the dark the next time a storm hits? Then reach out to Calvi Electric, a certified Generac dealer. From installation to maintenance, they're your go-to experts for Generac generators, ensuring your home stays powered through any storm. A Generac home standby generator will automatically restore power to your home during an outage, so your life goes on uninterrupted. Put your trust in Calvi Electric, the premier electrical contractor serving South Jersey for over 115 years. Visit calvielectric.com today and stay ahead of any storm.
Progressive knows owning a home can be hard, but not always. Like when you're relaxing on your patio, enjoying a nice, quiet evening. So quiet. Except for the sound of the neighbor's party. Which you said you'd go to if you weren't busy. And your quiet night on the patio, that's not exactly busy, is it? Maybe you should just stay inside. At least Progressive's Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance is the easiest part of owning a home. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? Well, they're not hard to find when you go to ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. People who are actively looking for jobs like yours. So it's easy to find the right person fast. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Progressive knows when you own a boat or RV, it's like you're automatically on vacation, even if you're actually a marriage counselor in the middle of couples therapy. But in your mind, you're camping in Acadia, puttering around Frenchman Bay. Your boat and RV are both protected. You're lobster drenched in butter and... Uh-oh, did your clients just notice you weren't listening? Quick, do the thing where you just repeat back exactly what they said but as a question. They bought it. Now back to Maine, earning an automatic discount bundling your boat or RV with your home or auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
The 80s Rock Tour, featuring hits from Foreigner, Journey, and Asia, is coming to Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City on May 16th. Relive the glory day at theoceanac.com. Don't miss out on the ultimate 80s rock experience at Ocean Casino Resort. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All right, before we get to the weekend sports, a little shout out to Willie from Taste of Love Food Truck. He says, come on, Josh, show a little love to the local trucks, LOL. By the way, Willie, salt of the earth human being. Yes, Taste of Love Food Truck, and here's the problem. If I start naming Taste of Love, I start naming Smoker to Dell, I got to start naming everybody. So that's why I try not to name people when I start start doing all these things, because then the show just turns into a slew of shout outs, and then I get in trouble because, well, there's always gonna be someone unhappy with me. But I know Willie just means it in good fun, so I appreciate Willie chiming in. All right, crazy weekend in sports. Let's recap it real quick. They always say there's nothing better than Game 7. Well, over the weekend we had 2 Game 7s in the NBA, one Saturday, one Sunday. In the NHL, same. Game 7 on Saturday, Game 7 on Sunday. I don't know about you guys, but it felt like the Game 7s on Sunday delivered more than the ones on Saturday. The Clippers looked like they wanted nothing to do with that game in Denver on Saturday night. Like, I went back and watched that game, and I'm like, the Clippers look lifeless. Is it just because they're in Denver? I mean, I don't know what it was, but James Harden and those guys looked like they did not want to be there. They had no interest in winning that game. Denver absolutely smashed them. And then Dallas and Colorado was close early on. But you could tell that the acquisition of Mikko Rantanen played big in that game. Not just because he scored, but because of the fact that his energy kind of accelerated the Stars in the second and third periods. I think that series showed, between Dallas and Colorado, that Dallas did a better job at retooling their roster for a playoff run than Colorado did. Meanwhile, Sunday to me were the best of the Game 7s. Golden State and Houston was really, in many ways, just a slug fight. I mean, they just were going hit for hit throughout the game. Buddy Hield with a playoff game of his life. You know, Steph Curry, he wasn't making a lot of shots early on, but he was doing an amazing job running the offense. Houston tried to fight back into the game, but it was just Golden State was way too much by the end. Playoff Jimmy, showed up for Game 7. It was a wild game. And in the NHL, not one but two overtimes. Congratulations to the Winnipeg Jets, a team that was maligned by a lot of people throughout the regular season. Do they have what it takes to win the postseason? Well, they got past the Blues. And now moving forward, this is going to be interesting. Because Dallas and Winnipeg, the two teams playing 7 games, have to play each other. Who has more left in the tank? And meanwhile, the Nuggets, tough test. You got Oklahoma City in the next round. Does Denver have enough juice in the tank for that series? And meanwhile, Golden State and Minnesota. That is going to be the ultimate size versus shooting matchup. The size athleticism of the Timberwolves versus the shooting of Golden State. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great everybody. I'll catch you tomorrow.
Our smart devices, they can be a benefit or a strain on our health. But with some mindful adjustments, we can use them for...
Before we get out of here, on the YouTube channel, at Josh Hennig, like, subscribe, share with your friends. A quick post-show thing, a conversation. So I mentioned before the break, the last commercial break, that I was going to touch on the Kentucky Derby. So let's hit on that really quick. If you were watching on my YouTube channel, you were tuning in to 97.3 ESPN on Saturday, I gave you a guy's trifecta. And my trifecta ended up hitting 2 out of 3. Okay? And it's one of those deals where I never try to be the person who acts like I know everything, because I know I don't know everything. Instead, I like to be the person who tries to give you guys information, right? I try to be the kind of guy who says, look, this is what I learned. Here's what I can share with you. Well, I told you guys the 3 horses I liked the most on Saturday were Sovereignty, who ended up winning outright. Journalism, I knew was the favorite, so I couldn't ignore that, because that would just be silly on my part. But the third horse that I obviously got wrong was, I really thought that the experience coming into the Derby, and again, this is where I always tell you guys, it's better to be wrong using information than it is to be wrong because you're trying to outsmart people or outsmart the system, right? Frankly, I didn't know anyone who thought Beza was going to come in the top 3 of this race. I didn't see it anywhere. I didn't hear it anywhere. I didn't observe it anywhere. Nothing. So great job by them and their horse to put him in a position to come in 3rd. But I mean this in all sincerity. It's better to be wrong because you did the research and you went with information than it is to be wrong and then second guess yourself because you didn't do the research or you didn't do the work. And I think that is kind of where I landed at the end of the day. Because, you know, when I went into the Kentucky Derby, I was looking at guys like Berman Square. I was looking at guys like Citizen Bowl. And I was kind of like, all right, well, maybe this, maybe that. But at the end of the race, getting 2 out of 3 is not bad. especially for someone who, like myself, I'm not a horse racing expert. I'm not even really a horse racing guy. I'm just a guy who loves sports. I love watching it. I'm passionate about it. I just enjoy this stuff. So, for me, I have always been the kind of person who tries to look at sports through the lens of, can I share you guys information? And I'm very proud that it worked out that 2 out of the 3 got there. Because hopefully somebody out there either used that information, for a positive, or you used it to maybe not wager and not waste your money. That's always a positive too. Sometimes you can take information and say, hey, I didn't learn from this what I should do. I just learned what I shouldn't do. And maybe that can be a positive for some people as well. So I know a lot of people were into it. Again, I didn't watch it live because I was at the AEW event on Saturday night. So for me, that's kind of where my attention was. I kind of just pulled up my phone. I was like, all right, what were the final results later on? So obviously, like I said, journalism was the favorite. You had to throw him into the conversation. Sovereignty, I felt very, very good about that pick. My third pick was Luxor Cafe. And Luxor Cafe was obviously the one that I got wrong. I thought Luxor Cafe's history at running in sloppy courses was going to help. Obviously, it didn't, because Luxor Cafe, when you go back and watch the race, basically got lost in the pack. The jockeys who were riding the horses like Final Gambit, Owen Almighty, and Berman Square all did a better job at navigating the field than Luxor Cafe and his jockey did. So, listen, American Pharaoh's son didn't get it done, but, there's always the next race. Now, the question is going to be when it comes to horse racing, and this is where it gets a little, what's going on here? And that is, I always encourage people, when it comes to sports betting, sports gambling, do not rely on a previous result when it comes to non-team sports. Learn about why an individual won, whether it's a horse race, whether it's a tennis event, whether it's a golfing tournament. Like, for example, Rory McIlroy winning the Masters is no guarantee that Rory is ever going to win anything else ever again this year. Scottie Scheffler just dominated the most recent PGA tournament. And I feel pretty comfortable saying that going into the next PGA event, he is going to dominate as well. I think Scottie Scheffler not winning the Masters was a little bit of a wake-up call for him. I think recovering from the hand injury, he is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. You got to evaluate who are all the players going into another race. And right now, if you're someone looking at horse racing and saying, okay, Sovereignty won the Kentucky Derby, I'm looking ahead now to the next 2 legs of the Triple Crown. To which I would say, don't do that. Because 1, the next 2 legs of Triple Crown are probably going to be different conditions. Number 2, they're probably not going to have 19, 20 horses running. And number 3, they're all different lengths in terms of race distance. It's like, I have always compared horse racing, and when I brought this up to people who know more about horse racing than I do, they told me this is a very fair analogy. So I've been running with it for the last 15 years. And that is, horse racing is a lot like tennis majors. The Australian Open in tennis is on a hard court. The French Open at Roland Garros is on a clay court. Wimbledon in England is on grass. The U.S. Open is on a hard court. And the difference between the U.S. Open and the Australian Open is that the Australian Open, those courts tend to be a little faster than the American Open court. And a lot of the American Open winners are typically people who have gotten better as the year went on, whereas the Australian Open is usually tennis players who are quick starters at the year and maybe fade at the end of the calendar year. Whereas the clay of Roland Garros, you have to strike the ball differently to get the results that you want versus the grass. The grass has a little bit more of a skip to it than the hard court. All kinds of variables go into this. The same thing with horse racing. The Preakness and the Belmont, they run differently than the Kentucky Derby course. Okay, the Derby is kind of like the Daytona 500. Daytona 500, the first race of the year in NASCAR. It's the biggest event of the year. Same with the Kentucky Derby. But in NASCAR, when it comes to the Brickyard 500, when it comes to the other races later in the year in NASCAR or the majors, right? The Masters is a completely different course than the U.S. Open in golf or the British Open or the PGA Championship or the Players Championship. So when it comes to analysis, when it comes to evaluation of winners and losers, when it comes to sports betting, and again, I encourage all of you, never bet with money you don't have, okay? It's better to not bet than to gamble, okay? I'm a big believer in that. But if you're going to do it with information. And the information I give you is the same thing with Rory at the Masters. I give you the same advice with Sovereignty at Kentucky Derby. Whoever won the last big event should not be the favorite in the next event. It's as clear as that. Thanks for watching. At Josh Hennig on my YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, share with your friends as we try to do some post shows here on my YouTube channel. And keep it tuned because we will be having more announcements of different projects we're going to be working on coming up in the future. So thank you all for watching and staying tuned and being subscribed right here and listening to me as well on 97.3 ESPN. I'll get you all tomorrow around 6 p.m. Eastern Time.